Hello, welcome to another day in our journey through the 30 days of hope. Today I want to talk to you about the importance of having humility as we understand that we've been created in the image of God by a Lord who loves us so very much. The Bible says in Genesis chapter 1, verse 26, it says, "Let us make man in our image after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over the livestock, over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth." The Bible shows that we have been created in God's image. That means we've been created with a certain kind of nobility. We've been created, too, to have stewardship over the earth and to reflect the glory of God through our lives in the earth. And that could make us feel very self-important, but we also must realize that we must be humbly postured before God because we are utterly dependent on Him. God is so big, we are so small. I can remember one time when I was 17 years old, I was a counselor at a boys' Christian camp. And at the end of the week, we gathered all of the boys together. We built a big bonfire, and we asked every boy to get a stick, and at some point during the evening, drop that stick in the fire and share with the rest of the group the kinds of things that God had spoken to their hearts over the course of that week. One little boy got up, about a 9-year-old boy, threw his stick in the fire, and he said, "Everybody look up in the sky." And we looked up in the sky, and it was just a brilliant array of stars that night, just crystal clear, sparkling. And he said, "Look at all those stars. Look at that vast universe." And he said, even the nearest star is 4 light years away, which is brilliant that he would have known that at age 9. And he said, "Look at all of how big that is and how small we are, and yet God still knows us." And he went and he sat down. And I thought, how amazing. That little boy was quite the theologian. He understood that God who has created this world that's so big, we're so small, and yet God regards us. He loves us. He's created us in His image, and He cares for us. But also we learn from that, God is big because God's bigger than all that creation. We're so small, and we are utterly dependent on Him in every way. We were created in the image of God, in the likeness of God, and this means something. This is very, very special. I bear the resemblance of my father. My father passed away some 4.5 years ago, and every morning when I go to shave and look into the mirror, I can see his face. He and I look a lot alike. I am, in some sense, was birthed in his image. I have a lot of his DNA in me, and so there's this common denominator. He and I laugh the same way. We smile, we smirk, all in the same fashion. We favor one another quite a bit. In the same way, you were created in the image of God, and you favor Him in certain common denominator ways. You have been made to relate to Him and have a common denominator with God. You're not God. I'm not God. But we can relate to Him in a personal way like no one else in the created order can. Now that's something amazing. That's something so notable. And we were created in His image. And because we were created in His image, we were created for His purpose. And we need to understand that if we run our lives against the grain of the purposes of God, we damage our lives. Several years ago, I preached a sermon about this, and I used an illustration, a physical illustration. I took a CD player and brought it out on the stage, and it was playing beautiful music. And I said, "This is a CD player, and it was designed to play beautiful music when you put a CD in it. But what if I decide to use it in a way that it wasn't designed to be used for? What if I decide to use it as a basketball?" And I immediately then went and tried to bounce the CD player on the floor. And what happened? It smattered into 1,000 pieces, and the music stopped. In so many ways, we have been created to follow the purposes of God and to reflect the nature and character of God. But so many times we sin, don't we? And when we sin, we run our lives against the grain of God's purposes for our life. And the music that God wanted to play through our life ends up getting silenced. It's so important that we understand that we are created by God, that we are sustained by God, that the very breath in our body is a gift from Him, and that we should live our lives aligned with His purposes, humbly following Him, because we were created in His image for His purpose. So have hope in a God who created you for such noble purpose, and have hope in Him so much that you align your life with those purposes and live for His glory.